Two. Okay, we'll begin. Thank you all for your patience.
Okay, we'll begin. Thank you all for your patience.
Are they going to send feedback?
Shut your speakers off, and we can listen to Joe's speakers.
Okay, we're going to begin here in a minute, but the first thing is there's quite a few of you on, and we appreciate you participating. I ask that you leave your microphones muted. I'll try to make sure that everyone's muted throughout the meeting, simply because it will be difficult to hear one another speaking if not. So there will be opportunity for the public to speak during the public hearing and the public comment section. But now we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so our first item is all right, just a couple opening remarks. The coronavirus update. You guys have that on. Mark, are you on one?
Mine's off.
How is it?
Do you have it here, but just want me to do it?
I can hear you, so it's,
You can hear me talking? You hear?
no, there's.
Yeah, you can hear me directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My concern is how,
People.
well, no, just the feedback, because
Mine is off.
Well, they can shut theirs off and just open your speaker off the other day, and they can listen to everything through yours.
okay. Well, I'll take my earbuds off then to do that.
Yeah, I could hear the public fine.
Okay.
But if I plug this in,
So you need to just keep yours, you need to keep yours,
yeah, this will mute mine.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just shut your earbuds off.
Just to get that figured out.
I can hear your speakers fine.
Okay.
From the public, and you speaking is we're good.
Okay, we'll try this again. Okay, some opening remarks. So the first is a coronavirus update and notification. As many of you are aware, there have been a number of increased number of cases, positive cases in Ticonderoga over the last week. The latest count is at least 11. There's also been a press release issued this evening from Public Health. I'll read it right now. It says, attendees of a funeral on December 4th at the Wilcox and Reagan Funeral Home in Ticonderoga and a reception held afterwards at a private residence in Putnam may have been exposed to COVID-19. Following these events, several individuals have now tested positive for COVID-19 and were present at these locations during their infectious period. The Essex County Health Department recommends that all attendees self-monitor for symptoms of COVID-19, which include, but are not limited to, fever, cough, chills, and loss of sense of taste and smell over the 14-day period from the date of the potential exposure. If experiencing these or other symptoms of illness, seek immediate testing by contacting your medical provider or an urgent care center. New York State's COVID testing hotline can be reached at 1-888-364-3065. And the Public Health Department just encourages everyone to wear their masks, to physical distance, to routinely wash hands and limit your exposure to coworkers, crowds, gatherings, and unnecessary travel. Along those same measures, there's also been an uptick in the seasonal flu for Essex County, and so flu-related hospitalizations are also on the rise throughout our state. So the same measures that prevent COVID-19 also help prevent the flu. So again, please continue to use your mask, physical distance, hand wash, and just limit your exposure to crowds, gatherings, and unnecessary travel. And then everyone 6 months of age or older should be should attempt to get a yearly flu vaccine if possible. As many of you are aware, there's been an announcement made from the IP International paper about the future of the IP mill spinning off into a separate company, amongst other IP facilities around the world. International paper had issued a press release as of earlier, late last week, early this week. And so I hope many of you can search for that online. It basically talks about the information as to how the changes will commence over the next year. I had received a phone call from Elise Stefanik, who had also mentioned that they're doing everything they can at the federal level to help ensure that there's no job losses for our area, which is a very, very important thing for us to consider and do what we can to ensure that the health and safety of the mill remains here in Ticonderoga. With that, we will move into public hearing. And the first item for public hearing tonight is regarding the annual 2021 Chilson Volunteer Fire Company contract. Bear with me for 1 minute. I know people are anxious to talk, and we will open it up. I just want to give a brief overview. So these public hearings that we have tonight are typical for any agency that the town contracts with, and in particular with Chilson collects funds for through their own special district. And so the funds this year have remained the same as they have for last year. Appropriations for the Chilson Fire Department Fire District being at $74,645. And so I don't know if there's anything really else to mention other than we will open it up for comment from anyone regarding our contract with the Chilson Fire District. And I see there's only a few callers on, so I will unmute. Oh, actually, how am I going to do this? I can only see a few of you, so Steve Phelps, I know you were on. And I'm trying to think who else. I don't know. This is the challenging part of doing it.
I can see everyone that's on the call. It looks like 37 people.
You can see them all, but you can't physically see their faces, so.
They don't have the cameras on.
No, so I guess what I'll do is I don't know how to go through with people that aren't physically appearing to allow them to speak, especially the callers that are on the line. So I think everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. So maybe that's the first start. If anyone would like to say something, please unmute and offer your comments. I don't see anyone. I don't know if you guys have anything.
No, I'm set.
Okay. All right, well, if there's no comments, then we'll go ahead and close that public hearing. next public hearing is regarding the annual 2021 Thai EMS contract, followed by the hearing on the 2021 Royal Ambulance Service Incorporated contract. Before we open these hearings for public comment, I have prepared a statement, actually on behalf of the town board, regarding all the discussions that we've had, and basically a summarization of those discussions. So to begin, I want to allay any concerns that any residents of Ticonderoga may have regarding the false rumors that the town board is going to dissolve Thai EMS and place Lamoille as primary EMS response. This is simply not true, and it's also not even possible. The town is not in the business of providing emergency medical services. By virtue of town law, the town is able to provide funding through a contract with those agencies who provide emergency medical services. And this is all this public hearing is about, the contract. However, before we open up for public hearing for public input, I would like to share a little of what the town board has been working with our local EMS agencies to achieve and some other efforts at the county level. Like all of you who are on this call, the members of the town board support our volunteer and paid EMS care providers. Throughout all of our discussions which have occurred over the last few years, and even those recent executive sessions where we have had conversations with representatives and the medical directors from both squads, as well as the Essex County Emergency Medical Service Coordinator, I can assure you that the town board's goal has always been the same: to ensure that our residents and visitors receive the highest and swiftest level of care for themselves or their loved ones in their time of need. I'd like to give a little background. Thai EMS has been operating as the primary 911 emergency provider for nearly 8 decades, servicing calls from the scene of need to our local emergency department. While they have been mostly a volunteer organization, our times are changing, and they, like many other agencies throughout our nation, are moving toward becoming an agency with paid staff. Lamoille, on the other hand, is a private company based in Vermont, who has been providing patient transport care from facility to facility, namely Elizabeth Community Hospital through UVM and Moses Ludington, to a tertiary hospital in Burlington, Plattsburgh, or Glens Falls, as the case may require. Both Thai EMS and Lamoille Ambulance Services operate with a certificate of need and are overseen by a medical director as well as a framework of regulatory layers. Most importantly, both are needed in our region, as both provide those two levels of support, those being scene to facility transport care and facility to facility transport care. The town has become much more involved in the past couple of years as the number of drop calls to Thai EMS have increased. In 2019, the number exceeded 140, which is significant compared to the annual call volume of 800. At the county level, Essex County has been pushing and receiving nearly $6 million in grant funds to develop a county-wide solution to reduce drop calls. The first phase of this county plan was to provide paid staff to Ticonderoga, Crown Point, Mariah, and Wilmington. And it has been working as the number of drop calls year to date for 2020 has been last reported as being about 7. At the town level, we initiated a second contract to staff additional resources through Lamoille to guarantee that mutual aid would be available for those times when Thai EMS did not have a full duty crew on call to respond. While there is more that can be stated about these two organizations and the services they provide and what we have learned about EMS in the county, I hope this helps to shed some light on the extent to which your town and county government are working hard to help keep these necessary services functioning in our community. So now back to the public hearing and the matter at hand. The town has met with both agencies and has reviewed their needs and has determined that neither requires a contract for this year. Thai EMS has met the requirements we have set for them for this past year, and thanks to Mark Barber, have produced a reality-based budget that is nearly balanced. It has been determined that the county grant assistance that they're receiving, along with an increased revenue from the reduction in drop calls and a healthy fund balance that they have, are the means to work through their small budget gap this year. This is a great feat, as it has only been in the last handful of years that the town has even had to enter into a contract to supplement their revenue. Lamoille, as a private company, will continue to operate as they have. They have recently contracted with Thai EMS to provide advanced life support, or ALS, care when the need arises. We do not see a need to provide additional funds as we have this past year, as the number of mutual aid calls have also significantly reduced. So based on our discussions of each's financial situation, the town does not see the need to provide funds to either. However, if circumstances change in the future, we can always reevaluate. And at this time, I would offer the floor to my fellow board members if they had anything else they wanted to chime into regarding this. Tom, Joe, Steve, you're good? Okay. I just want to point out one other item before we open it up. You know, couple of the discussionary topics centered around ALS care, and we're working with the county to try to improve how dispatching handles ALS calls. As in other counties south of us, they actually have a prioritization dispatching, such that when a call comes in, the dispatch can issue out a priority level, indicating to the EMS responder the level of care that's needed. And this would further help to expedite the necessary services. Assuming that Thai EMS doesn't have an ALS on staff, they can easily have dispatched Lamoille to assist them in that person's time of need. So we're working not only at the agency level, but also at the county level to try to improve just how fast and you can get the highest level of quality of care to our constituents. So at this time, I would open it up for any comments from the public. I know there were a lot of rumors going around, and I hope that this has cleared up some of the confusion. For those, we'll start with those I can physically see. I see Stu Barbary's on. I don't know if he has a comment. So, I'm sorry, Stu, what did I say? Stu Baker.
Stu Baker works at the PGA happening here, literally right across the street from the EMS. Joe, can you please clarify why public hearings were scheduled about the EMS and Lamoille contracts if no contracts are needed?
That is a great question. We decided to leave them open, Stu, simply because as the meeting was approaching, there was a lot of concern, as you know, about the rumors spreading around. But you're right, technically there does not need to be a public hearing regarding a contract that we're not providing with either agency. We left them open just purely to allow the public the opportunity, if they had any clarifying questions, given all the discussions and rumors and so forth that have been circulating around.
Okay, so just to clarify, is the town providing financial support to the EMS in the next budget year?
We are not.
Did we in the current budget year?
We did. We had provided $20,000 this past year, and then an additional amount to supplement the contractual obligations of the county staffing for the months of November and December. But like I said before,
As a result,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, like I said before, last year the revenue was down because the number of dropped calls was up and they were responding to those calls. Therefore, they couldn't receive the revenue. This year, their drop calls have significantly decreased to 7 when last reported. So their revenue is significantly up. And in working with Mark Barber and others from the Thai EMS squad, they've been able to work through some of their budgeting issues and have put forth a relatively balanced budget with a small shortfall that they believe they can accommodate in this coming year. So, as I said before, the town is not opposed to entering into a contract in the future if need be, but they have a healthy fund balance right now, and the discussions we had indicate that they are sufficient for 2021.
Okay, so to be clear, a contract is only required if the town is providing financial support to the EMS, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. Giselle, your microphone's on, and do you have a question? Okay. Does anyone else have a question relating to the Thai EMS contract? We'll open with that one first.
I do have a question, Mr. Giordano.
Yeah, go ahead. Is this Corey?
Yes, this is Corey. Corey Levin, with Loyal Ambulance Service.
Okay. Is your question for Thai EMS or is it for the Lamoille contract? Or not contract, but the public hearing for Lamoille?
Right. So historically, the town has supported Ticonderoga EMS in their response to emergency calls within the town, as you said, for many decades.
No.
Actually, no.
They're not going to.
So that's incorrect. The town only recently has been providing funding as of 2014, I believe. So only for the last 6 years, 7 years.
Previous town.
Okay, well, they've been providing service to the town, correct?
Thai EMS has been providing service to the town for the last 8 decades, but only receiving funding from the town for the less than the last decade.
So is there still going to be, so there's not going to be any funds exchanged in return for the contract, but is there still going to be some sort of arrangement made so that Ticonderoga is listed as the primary response agency for the town? Now, I only ask that as someone who governs and, operates an EMS agency in Warrensburg, like I said, when we had met prior. If the town had approached me and said, oh, we're not going to sign a contract with you for service for the tax year of 2021, it would make me question, do I have an obligation to respond? Is there somebody else that's going to be responding? So I'm just trying to clarify and better understand. This isn't against one agency or another, just for general information as to what the expectation is of Ticonderoga EMS or Will EMS for response to emergency calls within the town.
Well, so I think that's up to the emergency agencies themselves. That's their business, your business, Thai EMS's business. As far as your question about making a determination, that's not in our jurisdiction. So that's why
the county is making a determination on who they're calling, correct? Based on the.
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure exactly where the jurisdiction lies. Both agencies, both Lamoille and Thai EMS, have their own certificate of need. So I don't know how that determination would be made. But whether we fund or not fund, that doesn't impact the agencies being able to perform the services that they are already providing.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Corey. Did you get his? Willette. Are there any other questions for the public hearing under Thai EMS? I realize, like, student. Stu, do you have another question?
Yeah, it's a follow-up to the prior question, and perhaps somebody from Thai EMS can address this if the town board is not able to. The EMS budget is based on responding to a set number of calls. If they are not the designated primary responder for EMS services, it could be difficult to meet their budget goals. So I think the question of how they get designated as the primary responder is really important.
Yeah, I don't, so it's a good question. It's outside the scope of our public hearing tonight, right? Because our hearing is solely on the contract associated with, or therefore the lack of contract, since we're not entering into a contract with either agency. But when we learned from our discussions, Essex County Dispatch, I don't believe would, I'm not trying to think how they worded it. It's basically I'm not even sure if they knew how that had changed.
So according
Do you
to,
want to unmute yourself?
I can go on off mute, but you may have to change just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi. So when we had discussions with Essex County Dispatch Director, and we asked that question. And of course, it's not anything that the town designates, but because that Tide EMS has been providing that service for many decades as the primary responder, that's who they continue to use until such time as they are no longer in existence and or they are unable to perform those duties. So until such time as something changes, as far as the dispatch is concerned, they continue to call.
Nobody can hear him. No, somebody's
Still,
muted.
hold on. Try again. Good job on mute, but
He's showing he's currently muted.
I see that. Thank you.
unmute. Okay, now can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So we asked that question to Essex County Dispatch, and their answer to us was that because Tide EMS is providing the primary service to respond to residents in the town of Ticonderoga, that will continue to do so until such time as they either aren't a viable entity, can't do it, or if we had decided to notify them that Tide EMS was no longer a viable entity, and then they would have to start using someone else. But as far as they're concerned, Tide EMS has been, and as far as we know, will continue to be the first call that they make, unless Tide EMS designates them or tells dispatch that they do not have a duty roster to complete that and to call the Moyle first. So that is a Tide EMS call if they can't fulfill the duty roster.
He's still on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's called.
Thank you, Tom.
Hi, Stuart. This is Renee from Tide EMS. That is the case. We will be staying the primary agency, and we will be moving forward in 2021.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, is there any other comments from the public? You can chat as well if you, I know a number of you aren't physically being seen, but you can certainly put a chat in if you have a question.
Yes, this is Corey Oleff again.
Okay, Corey?
Say this, as the president of another agency, and concern for that, they're going to think that Ticonderoga, the question that I would ask my town board if they decided we're no longer going to support you in providing service to our town, but we still want you to do it, then I would be like, okay, well, what do I have? What are my obligations? What are my expectations? If Kevin Garrity, the town supervisor, Warrenburg said, we're no longer going to financially contribute to your service, but we still want you to respond, I would be like, okay, so we don't have a contract anymore. Where does it outline what my responsibilities are as far as my agency to provide service to the town? Does that make sense? I'm just trying to, I guess I'm asking on behalf of Ticonderoga EMS, as to say, what do they get? I mean, Lamoille EMS has a certificate of need for the entire county. We can respond to any call at any time. However, we don't. We allow the primary agency to do that and provide support and backup when needed. But if I was Ticonderoga EMS listening to this, and I'd be like, okay, well, what do we do? I understand that the expectation is still that the primary agency, but what do I have? What sort of tangible documents, tangible contract do I have that will say what my responsibilities are as far as my agency to respond to calls?
Yeah, I understand your question. I don't know that that's outside of our understanding here to be able to respond to that. Again, it's outside the scope of the public hearing. but it's something that can be looked into. My understanding, just because you have a certificate of need doesn't designate you as primary as you're describing for Lamoille. But I have to defer to, the county and their understanding of that. So,
My understanding,
and you will.
we get feedback.
The certificate of need tells them what they're supposed to do.
My understanding is,
You're gonna meet them.
my understanding is Thai EMS has a mutual aid contract with Lamoille, correct?
Yes.
So that's where they would provide backup to, with the agreement with Thai EMS,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Okay, any other comments, questions, statements?
Renee was just speaking, Joe.
Why can't I, sorry.
Just to update, we have an ALS intercept agreement with Lamoille at this time. That's when we would call if we needed, assistance in any calls that require ALS, if we didn't have ALS on, on the roster for the day, evening, for a backup agency, absolutely. As far as the primary agency, we are the primary agency for Ticonderoga, Putnam, and that's where we're gonna continue to do till, from now until whenever possible.
Renee, we missed the middle part of your statement, unfortunately. I know there was some reception issues. Could you just restate what you stated?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so basically right now we have an ALS intercept agreement with Lamoille Ambulance Service. So they would come out and help us in situations where we needed assistance with ALS. Obviously if there's a second call that we're not available for, they would be picking that call up for us as well. As of right now, we are the primary agency for Ticonderoga and Putnam, and that's the way it's going to continue in the future.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello?
Tony.
Who's speaking?
This is Giselle Hoppe. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, Giselle.
Hi, thanks for everybody's time, and I just want to say thank you to Thai EMS and Lamoille for, helping our community. Everybody does a really good job. My concern with them not having a contract with Ticonderoga, i.e. Lamoille, and that time with a advanced life support situation, 10 minutes could mean someone's life. So is there a way through dispatch or anything like that that could be done automatically before Thai EMS has? I guess what I'm saying is that it's a time issue.
Yes.
That it has to automatically go to Thai EMS. If someone's calling saying, I'm having a heart attack, okay, I think I'm having a heart attack. So shouldn't an advanced life support ambulance be automatically sent to that place if Thai EMS doesn't have one available?
Right.
Is that what you're saying you do automatically, Renee? Okay, well, thank you.
Sorry, Giselle, this is Karina Woods from Ticonderoga EMS.
Hi, Fran, how are you?
Good, how you doing? I think that people don't quite
something that Giselle's concerned about when purchasing number is the response is Ticonderoga EMS gets the call. They were on with a critical care technician or paramedic isn't even notified of the call until they're already there, which could mean life or death for that person's loved one. And that's not a negative comment towards the responders, it's just what, correct.
Joe, this is Renee.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? I can, yes. Hi, I would just like, this isn't a place to talk about EMS calls. This is a
right, this is,
public forum. We should be talking about ambulance calls here. We are staffed 24/7.
are you still there, Renee? Okay. Any other questions on, well, I know there's no contract, so there's no questions on the contract. But without getting into any more technical details regarding the operations of EMS, I think those things are better served at the Thai EMS meetings, in discussions at the county with regard to dispatching. Not really for the town board specifically, because this is out of our purview. Again, this hearing is solely on, I'm just reconnecting, hold on. This hearing was just allowed to just clarify some misconceptions in the public and just to provide our conversations that we've had with both squads regarding, at this time, no need for a contract. So if there are no one else pertaining to anything that has to do with the contract and not operations, we will go ahead and close the public hearing for Thai EMS. And at this time, we'll open up the hearing for Lamoille. Again, there is no contract with Lamoille this year, so if there's any questions, comments pertaining to the contract itself, not the operations, you can state those now. They can't hear me. Okay, I think we had an issue with audio, I apologize, so if there are no other questions pertaining to the Thai EMS contract, I'm not sure where I cut out, so I'll just jump back in.
You still can't hear you.
You can?
Now it's coming through.
If there are no other comments for the Thai EMS contract or portion of the public hearing, I will go ahead and close that. And we will open the Lamoille, the 2020-21 annual Lamoille contract, which again, there is no contract this year. There's no funds being provided to Lamoille. So if anyone has any comments, questions, statements, again, not operationally based, those can be handled outside of this forum. Okay, being none, we'll go ahead and close that public hearing as well. You guys can still hear me on the mic, right?
Yeah, it's just a long delay from you.
I just think it has to do with the fact that there's so many and the
It's
connectivity.
There's a delay.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll finish and we'll move on to public comment. time, any member of the public may address the board with a comment, a statement, whatever they would like to present. And we're going to limit it to just a couple minutes, and we're not looking for a dialogue back and forth, so as you've just seen with the public hearing, it's a little choppy. So at this time, I would open it up. Just please state your name if you are not currently visible.
Joe, I have a comment.
Okay, yeah. Who is this?
Mark, right.
Mark Wright, okay.
I was, wanted to comment in regards to the letter that I sent this town for dated November 30 regarding the suspension of the inspector. Was that letter received? I had asked for it to be read into the minutes.
Yes, it was received, and we will enter it into the minutes. Anyone else?
Hi, Joe, Sweet there, can you hear me?
Yes, Wayne, how are you?
Good, doing well. Joe, just wondering about the flashing red light, the ag way, is that going to be a permanent situation, or is that going to take back to regular operations?
Sal's trying to find somebody to get it fixed.
Yeah, we're working on that. It sounds like Sal's working with someone to try to get it fixed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
What was on the water?
No, the flashing red light.
Oh,
Okay, if there's no other public comment, we'll move on to committee reports from public safety. And so, you had something to hand out, right?
They, town board already has their copies.
Okay.
So what I have here for the town board, we have an issue, a nuisance property on Racetrack Road. Started off on October 8th, issues with water leak break. Still hasn't been fixed. There's still a big hole at the edge of the road where these, the tenants are doing the work because the owner doesn't want to put the money in or waste the time on doing the work. There were some electrical issues in one of the buildings. The building was placed on a do not occupy order. Someone was also moved in after the order was put on the building. And there's a whole pile of rubbish out back, which they were instructed to be picked up, taken to the dump. That was picked up, it was moved into a pile.
Unmuted.
We still good?
I think you are.
The rubbish was picked up, put in a pile, covered with a tarp, still sitting behind the buildings. So at this point in time, the landlord hasn't done anything about it. Tenants are not qualified enough to make the necessary repairs that need to be done. Several drive-bys have shown that some work is being done, but it's not being done properly. So we want to go after the landlord under the nuisance law to start getting this taken care of before winter sets in. I'm mostly worried about the water line issue. If that freezes, that could possibly freeze the town line also, creating a large issue for many other residents in the local area as well.
Yeah, this is,
so does he need our permission to proceed?
yeah, well, I'm trying to remember. What did,
Dave, is that garbage? Is it garbage?
That's rubbish that's been sitting
I
out
mean, is there
back.
rats or anything that?
At this point, there has been no rats visible, but it is covered. It is a place of harborage for rats.
Yeah.
Eventually, as it starts getting cold and snowing, could be an issue with the neighbors as well if the rats start moving around, if they do move in.
well, I guess we would ask the attorney to draft up our options for
Call public hearing.
right. Well, usually for
Wasn't he here, you guys? Mark? When Matt was here, and this was brought up in our committee meeting, and Matt said to proceed.
My understanding is it went to the police.
Yeah, they went to the police, but I mean, that's all he had to do is take it to Adam, right? So he could
Oh, to
officer, yeah.
Well, I think the first, I mean, hold on here, I'm sorry. So many things going on right now. Let's see.
That's what he said when the day he was right here.
So he's bringing to
I'm
our,
not 100% sure what was completely said there. I missed some of that at the meeting, at public safety meeting. I haven't seen the minutes either to jog my memory.
yeah, so under the nuisance law, he's bringing, Dave's bringing to our attention the calls to service regarding violations, which exceeds the point limit. And so the next step is for the town board to issue a public hearing to address this and then determine course of action for restitution or not.
Correction.
Yeah, thank you, corrections. So, I just don't know if we.
Sorry, is my mic on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, good, I was trying to put it. Yeah, I didn't hear what we were talking about. Dave there presenting it?
Yeah, Dave, he's not linked into a mic. Can you hear right now?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Hard to hear. So Dave gave you guys the report that he put together with the points?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, the next move would be the town board to call a public hearing for the January meeting, and then I will work with Dave to get the notices of public hearing served out to the property owner, the tenants, and we have to check to see if there's a mortgage on the property yet, but we usually send one to the bank as well for the mortgage.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, this is
We just worked that out.
I know, we were talking about it earlier, so I appreciate that, Matt. This is only the second one we've dealt with, at least since I've been here, so it's not always fresh in terms of how we handle it, but,
Yep.
good, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so, you have nothing else, Dave, to report?
Not at this time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to public safety.
We met December 1st at 8 o'clock. We opened before 8 o'clock. Jeff Birch, president of the Black Point Road Association, via phone talks about the speeding concerns on Black Point. While discussing the issue with Chief Hulbert, Jeff suggested that his association look into donating a handheld LiDAR device to the police department. Jeff will be discussing it with the association and will get back to the police department. Chief Hulbert goes over the police monthly report attachment. He had approximately calls to service 241, incident reports 18, arrests 12, uniform traffic tickets 24, and accidents investigated 14. Chief Hulbert stated how important it is to have an investigator in the department to work with the fatalities to ensure that legal case closure, like the case we had last week. Codes Department, Leanna Peters goes over the Codes monthly report. Dave Burrows, Codes Department, discusses the ongoing problem on Racetrack Road. Bill Ball discusses the shutdown process with Matt Fuller and the rest of the committee. Chief Hulbert would like to mention that on Friday, December 4th, there will be a parade of lights starting at 6 o'clock. They made a motion for Chief Hulbert to end the meeting. All in favor, join in the next meeting is December 29th at 8 o'clock. And the Codes Department had 9 permits issued, safety inspections 3, and no pass and fail. And the speed trailer is on Melville Avenue. And the the police car that's been done has been returned to service. That's all we have.
Actually, your next meeting is going to be on January 20th. Well, I know, it was the 29th, we were looking to move all those to the following week.
Oh, we did? Oh,
Well, we're going to because
okay.
that's between Christmas and
Okay.
New Year's.
Joe?
We don't need a resolution.
Yeah.
Just to let everybody know. Okay, thanks, Dave.
So resolution schedule a public hearing for the nuisance property located on Strack Road for January.
Resolutions to schedule a public hearing for nuisance property on January
Yeah, I can't,
the, I think it's the
calendar's behind Mark.
14th, January 14th.
I'll move it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Aye.
Okay, I think Greg is with us. I saw him on here.
Yeah, it says.
Greg, are you there? There you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we can hear you, all right. Thank you for joining. You want to give an update on some of the water sewer projects, and then I know we have a couple of resolutions.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Sure. So, for the sewer project, the main update Broadway project to the Portage, the main sewer line is in, all the paving, temporary paving repairs have been completed. They will, and they got half and 3/4 of the lateral in. They will be doing a little bit more work over the next week or so, anything we can get done outside of the road right away, paving area, wrapping up the winter and start back to spring. We've got a couple of permanent easements to update based on adjustments to the existing conditions that we found in sewer lines a little bit different than we thought. And, my goal over the winter is to go look at the budget, see where we are, and I'll present an update on the budget, but overall things went pretty well. Ran a little more rock than we're hoping to, but other than that, we haven't run into any issues so far, so that's in pretty good shape. Everything else on sewer is in pretty decent shape. So the other project that we have going is some ventilation work at the wastewater plant. We're planning on putting out a small project, update the ventilation there. And I have a proposal in for the engineering work to do that. And that's one of the resolutions for sewer.
Okay.
So I think that's everything on the sewer. Do you want me to jump to water, or you can do the resolution first?
We can tackle the resolution first. I had a little, actually, why don't you do water, and then we can just tackle them all at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, so for water, we've got couple of updates. The water plant project is basically wrapped up. The last one was taken care of, so we're working on closeout paperwork. We are looking at a small project to that funding package. We have to replace part of the water main on Veterans Road, crossing 5 Mile Creek, as part to coincide with the work the Grant County is helping the town with to replace the culvert/bridge there. We're looking to do that with some of the remaining funds in the overall project. Working on that, the county update all the environmental paperwork and everything. And one of my proposals is to do the work to do that, design and bidding work for that. And then the other parts of the water project we have relate to some of the forward planning for the next phases of projects that are out there. We've been working on the water district consolidation and updating the water districts. We're pretty close to be able to present to the water and sewer committee. Planning on doing that in early January. We're also, and one of my proposals is a resolution to bring a sub-consultant in to give us some options for dealing with the water hardness as part of the next phase of the project. My proposal is just to move some of the money around in our current contract to do that, no cost
Eagle Lake, we've, last week, our wastewater water superintendent, along with the engineer from Barton and LaJudas, and our, the county engineer, had walked the water transmission line along Chilson and Eagle Lake to determine, or to put together some determination as to what parts of it may potentially be used as part of the solution for distribution. So we'll stay tuned and wait to see what that, what their evaluation comes back with. So at this time, we will jump into the resolutions for Public Works. There were 4 changes for water or sewer charges. The first is a resolution to reflect a 1 EDU water charge for the residential property located at 2576 New York State Route 74.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to reflect a 1 EDU water charge for the residential property located at 48 Alexandria Avenue.
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to reflect a 1 EDU water sewer charge for the residential property at 10 Father Joe's.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And a resolution to reflect a 2 EDU water charge for the vacant farmland located on Water Hill Road.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then these follow resolutions that Greg had just discussed. The first being a resolution to accept amendment number 1 of the AES contract for additional scope of work included in the water meter project. And this scope of work is, there's no charge. He's just changing some items around to cover the board's direction to address the water hardness issue in town.
I'll move it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. The second resolution, or the next resolution, is to accept amendment number 8 of the AES contract for additional scope of work included in the water system master contract. That's the existing water system upgrades that we had done, the well field, the distribution mains, the tank, and this $24,870 is going towards the Veteran Road design bid.
Was that part of the
Well, it was,
evaluation on the pumps, all the pump stations?
no, not this
That
one.
wasn't.
No, this one is to take the remaining funding, 0 interest loan money that's left over from the grant,
Put it someplace.
and try to utilize it along Veterans Road. As you guys know, Veterans Road is going to have a culvert replaced this year. We're just trying to sync those two up to maximize the funds that we currently.
Is that going to be done in-house or does that go out to bid?
I don't know. So I need a first.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
There's like an echo there.
Ready, Con?
An echo. There is an echo.
There is an echo.
The next resolution is to approve a letter of authorization for bidding and construction phase services related to the wastewater treatment plant temporary ventilation project. That's AES project 4932 in an amount not to exceed $16,500. Okay, this is, just so you all aware, this is the base bid. They're going to do the work, and we're going to bid out the base bid with a couple of alternates and kind of see how things go from there.
You explained that.
Yeah, okay, so you want to move it?
Yes.
Okay, you want a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then the last resolution is to go out to bid on that wastewater treatment plant temporary ventilation project.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Okay, that's all I have for water. Thank you, Greg.
He's gone to bed.
I know some people have been chatting in privately that as we still try to work out the kinks. What's that? Oh.
So going back to Mark Wright's question.
Joni, we're not in public session right now. So let's see here.
You're not voting
We have, someone had chimed in that they can hear feedback when we talk, and Joe. So, you're on,
Mrs. Gelman was asking about reading the letter, so just.
I know, but it's not public comment right now. Are you,
Understood.
are you in,
I muted.
you're unmuted?
It says here, this one says that you're no longer muted. Technology challenge you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jody, you have a question? I know it's not related to water sewer though, correct?
You're not in public session.
We're not in public session. Your question had to do with whether we are reading a letter into the meeting minutes. And there is no law that requires us to read a letter, public comment into the minutes. But we will include it as part of the minutes for the meeting. So. Okay, so we will move on to airport.
There'll be there won't be another time to comment about that?
For this meeting, given it's the first time we're having our meeting online, I've only put in for one public comment, not knowing exactly how long the public hearing is going to be. So for this meeting, there isn't another public session.
Okay, so there was literally like 2 seconds for people to have public comments.
No, I gave the floor open to whoever wanted to say anything, and no one spoke, so we moved on.
So is there going to be a meeting then regarding the elimination of the investigative position?
I'm sorry, that's not a topic for discussion here this evening. So
Okay.
okay, we are on to airport. Yeah, this is not public participation time, so
Our regular business.
this is our regular business. I understand, but there's no public participation during this time. So we'll move on to airport. The airport committee met on December 9th. Just a couple items to update. The fuel sales for October and November amounted to 689 gallons. We're looking to order fuel in the next week to replenish for the next year. And still making progress on the night landing approach with the FAA. They've changed some of their entries for notification of obstructions, so we're trying to work through that process. There's also some continuing work to be done at the payment box, just to make sure there's proper notification for pilots as if they arrive.
Joe, there's so much feedback and we can hardly hear you. Is there people in the background talking or something? I only see 2 board members on. Is there other people in that room talking?
No, there's no discussion happening right now except my speaking. So your mic is mic'd and you're on.
Mine's on.
Are you?
Nope,
Nothing, and you don't have any microphone on, correct?
nope. Well, that wireless one on the desk might be providing a little bit.
Oh, is that interfering?
It'd be better, Joe, if you were on the headsets, because it's probably getting some.
Sure, I can do it. If I do that though, I don't know that you can hear though. Right, it doesn't, no, you can hear me, but it won't pick up anywhere in here. I don't know that Tanya will hear it.
I won't hear.
She can hear you speaking.
Yeah, but I can't.
Right, but it won't pick it up.
Well, there shouldn't be any more public comment anyways. We're in our regular business of our meeting. So I will just listen to you guys. Like I normally do.
No one's talking right now, and is there still noise on the line?
I can hear it through this.
Okay, well, we'll try to limit our talking to one person so we don't
I
issue
can hear
feedback.
voices through here, this picture.
So what we'll do is we'll just make sure that, I think you're fine, David, I think it's,
Joyce said you could hear it.
Well, that's okay, because the headphones are plugged into it.
well, no, but if the microphone, the speaker goes off, you want to turn the speaker off, because
I
it'll
did.
pick up the
It's
noise.
off.
Yeah,
It's been on.
okay. All right, well, we'll try again, hopefully this doesn't. Anyway, the airport, what else? And we're just looking for further expansion of deposits of spoils at the airport for future expansion.
Your headsets aren't working.
My headset isn't?
No, I can't hear you through these anymore. For some reason, you're not.
Okay, can you hear me now? So, let's see here. I've got everyone muted. Quiet. Everyone's off. Tom, can you hear me? I think you have your headphones. Okay, we'll try this again. I've muted everyone, so we'll try to limit it to one person talking in here, just so we can get through the rest of the meeting. The next airport meeting is Groundhog's Day 2021. We will move on to Highway Transfer Station. Tom, I'm going to mute. Okay. I'm going to leave the microphone on, hopefully this works.
Okay, so we had a December 1st, 2020 meeting of the Highway Transfer Station. We had a public discussion where it was brought up concerning a more direct route to cross Montcalm Street to get from the Upper Falls Riverwalk to the south side of Montcalm, and the Lower Falls Riverwalk on the north side of Montcalm. Presently, hikers have to cross Lake George Avenue near Algonquin Street and turn north and cross Montcalm Street. It was proposed to consider installing a sidewalk on the west side of Lake George Avenue so walkers would only have to make one road crossing. The highway superintendent suggested simply painting a strip for pedestrians, so we will look into this and see if we can do something that we'll have to look into come springtime.
We went out and measured it, it can be done.
Yeah. There was a discussion about the fill that's taking place in a residence on Burgoyne Road, where it may cause a drainage problem in the future if the fill continues to encroach into the natural drainage issue. That was going to be looked into and determine what steps need to be taken to place an order in to have the fill
So you're gonna put that Sal told him to stop.
Yeah.
You know, no more.
Okay, good, just let him, because the feedback,
Oh,
he
sorry.
keeps texting me about the feedback, so just let him.
So a committee discussion, highway superintendent reported that this is a slow time of year between seasons, but the following tasks were completed over the last month. These are some of the major tasks, and not everything that they did every day, but they assisted in 2 water breaks. They fabricated a coupler to fit our snow pusher to the new loader. We built an offset mower for roadside mowing in the spring, and they stoned a shoulder on Burgoyne Road. And we had one small snow event that required some sanding and plowing. It was the town of Hague allowed the Ticonderoga Highway Department to make use of their brine maker, and the highway department's tank is now full. It will have to be refilled during the course of the winter, depending on the amount of snowfall we get. It was reported that the brine solution worked best if laid down prior to snowfall to slow the accumulation. Once the road was plowed, most of the solution was removed from the road, and sand salt mix worked best from that point. pointed out that the use of brine is still in an experimental stage, and the highway department is working with surrounding communities and organizations to determine the best way to use the brine solution. So that would be an ongoing issue through this year and going forward until it's determined on how many times to apply it, when to apply it, and so forth. The handicap parking lot at east side of Glens Falls National Bank, move it from there to the south side, in front of the bank, will not get completed until spring of 2021 due to the lateness of the season. We also decided to postpone looking for quotes for a street sweeper, beginning of next year for delivery in the spring. Discussions continued on the town potentially taking over Gravel Hill Road. After much discussion, it was determined not to be in the best interest of the taxpayers for the town to take possession of this private drive. So we have decided that we will not be taking over this private drive, and as far as we're concerned, that issue is closed. On sidewalks, we decided the east side of Lake George Avenue for approximately 300 feet is going to be a priority come spring. Highway Department will, over the course of the winter, put together a list including the lengths and locations of sidewalks most in need of repair. This list will be used to go out for quotes in March for work to begin in early spring, weather permitting. The new transfer station building is in place and waiting for electrical service and phones to be hooked up from the old building. The fencing still needs to be completed, but that should be done over the next few days to a week. I think it may be completed at this point, so they were close to being finished. There were no resolutions brought up this town board meeting for us to take up, and there were no outstanding items that were not discussed, and the meeting was adjourned at 10:52. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is Buildings, Grounds, and Parks and Rec.
Okay, all I've got is just, there was a leak up here. We got that fixed on the community building.
Why don't you
And then
put you on so you can see some?
I really don't even want it.
Well, they need to hear you. Well, you did it like that before, right? Okay.
Well, the senior bus has its own now. It's in the armory.
Okay.
That's all cleaned out, and the opener's on. They're starting to use it today.
Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me?
Karen,
Barely?
you want
Am I
to hear it? I
Did
can
your voice?
You want to sit here and just?
No, I'll sit in that corner. That's okay. I have my mask off because I know people won't be able to understand me. Okay, Parks and Rec meeting was held on November 17th. I won't mention who was there. We have a new position of a senior groundskeeper, and at the meeting, we discussed the duties for this new position. And they include, among other things, many shoulder projects, including the restoration and repairs in the Mount Hope Cemetery. This person will also be in charge of sidewalk plowing for the highway department. Head groundskeeper Grant will be in charge of shoveling around town buildings and plowing town parking lots. Many long-term projects have been listed for Grant and the new employee to work on during the shoulder season. This will eliminate the need to hire outside workers for some of these necessary projects. Mount Hope Cemetery, wow. Questions were again raised about the repair work that will be done when it will be done at the cemetery. I still need to clarify how much money is really available so that the paving work can be scheduled with the highway department. It's very unclear because it's a very old grant, and there were some restrictions on how the money could be taken out. It is hoped that with the new groundskeeper, Grant will be able to start such work as setting cornerstones. How to reseat older grave markers will be more challenging. Grant reported to the group. He reported he was now working by himself and he could use some additional help. Along with other responsibilities, weed whacking and mowing were still necessary after the seasonal workers were finished for the year because we had a warm fall. Grant also reported that trucks and/or ATVs had been doing wheelies at the beach, the boat launch, and somewhere on Baldwin Road, and they have damaged the grass and made bad ruts in the town's grassy area near the pump station at the beach. It was suggested to use game cameras, which have helped at other town problem areas at the beach also. Let's see, the second page. There's also a problem at the Pocket Park. The same cars are still parked in the fire lane area next to the Pocket Park, and winter plowing of the parking lot should begin soon. And so it was decided that a letter would be written informing the drivers that they should not be parking there. And this is not the designated parking area that we're talking about. Grant will place a letter on the car windshields. It is hoped that this illegal parking will stop so that no further action will be necessary. Bicentennial Park, plans have been made to repave the section of the blacktop path in the park in next year. However, because there have been several water main breaks in the grass area next to the section of blacktop that has been scheduled to be replaced, concern was expressed whether this section should be rebuilt first or another section designated. I will talk to Derek to see if the water pipe, which has been broken several times, could be relocated. Community building light poles. The globes on the light poles in front of the community building are in poor condition. One has a crack that can allow water to get into the fixture. Because the globes do not match the other outdoor fixtures in town and would be hard to replace, it was decided that the poles should have fixtures similar to the Tower Avenue poles and be converted to LED if they haven't been already. The town's contracted electricians will be asked to give an estimate for the work. Lachute Hydro. No payment has been received from the company in the past several years. An invoice should be sent to the company requesting payment as per contract. The Lachute Hydro money received is designated for use in the Lachute River corridor. Downtown Christmas decorations. New lights and bows have been purchased for all the wreaths and that are placed on the poles on Montcalm and Wicker Streets. A star tree topper was purchased for the town's Christmas tree, as well as new light strings for Bicentennial Park and lighted garland for the community building light poles. I think we needed some bright lights in the dark here, and we will not be meeting in December. I have something else to bring up, because we talked about restricting town properties from hunting. Do we have to, what's the next step on this one?
We need to discuss how we want to craft that.
Well, what the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Committee was, that all town lands would be, there would be no hunting on all town lands. And there's 3 areas that Matt has given us.
Yeah, the maps.
So where do we go from here to get that?
Well, we need to have a conversation to figure out exactly what that's going to be to get them the direction we need, and then we can go from there. So afterwards, we can talk about it.
Okay.
So a new town law.
That's correct. That's what I think is being proposed, right? A local law for no hunting. Okay, next up is,
Joe, did you not hear him?
no,
Hold on. So Matt asked if the direction we want to go was to put restriction for hunting on all town property. And I think the answer is yes.
Yes. That's what the committee's recommending.
I'm sorry, I had it on. Why did I hear that? Is yours on?
Yeah.
I'm not
I'll
gonna
give
do
it
that.
now.
You're good? Okay.
If that's what the town board wants to do, I can track that up.
Okay, yeah, I didn't remember where we left off with that. Sure. No hunting on town properties, and you had a few other items?
All town property.
Yeah, all town.
All town properties.
All town properties.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's it, Mike.
Okay, I'll grab that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Human Services, Mark.
And then the city conference.
I'll do it.
So we did have a scheduled a youth commission meeting this past month. Unfortunately, we didn't have a quorum and other members of the committee were not able to attend. I do thank Mark Wright for being there. We did have a good discussion, general discussion about the two meetings at, I thought it was Silver Bay Association, Steve Tam, on the teen center, and things to consider going forward there. So to follow up with Steve, we do have a youth commission meeting scheduled this month, so hopefully we get some attendance. The big thing about that would be viability of the ski program, because we do have an attendant for that program, and that they're going to be open, and then the big thing would be transportation among the COVID challenges. So optimistically, a little more robust minutes from the youth commission for next month. I guess one thing associated with that is there was, people didn't see an article in the paper where the Methodist Church is essentially partnered with the school. We did discuss possibility of doing it at the Armory, but the Methodist Church has opened up, Methodist, right? With, to have high-speed internet access. There's a Episcopal Church, the one next to the Armory, right? Sorry. But that article's in the paper. If you've got challenges with connections at home, to be able to go in there and be a quiet space to get online for the distance learning, and some of those challenges that some people have talked about, especially in Putnam, some of the regions outside of town. So that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Mark.
I forgot that we should advertise for our skating rink attendance last month, but we can do it this month.
Sure. So a resolution to advertise for the skating rink attendant.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who did the job last year for the skating rink?
Karina.
Pardon?
Karina.
Karina.
Is your mic, is your, in your volume, is your speaker? Okay. Tom, you're next with seniors? I know they didn't meet at all, right?
We'll go away, Joe, and I'll get on here.
Okay.
The seniors did not meet this month and haven't met for some time. I did have a discussion, and they have had some phone discussions amongst the seniors committee, but they are, have had no formal meetings at this point, and don't have an idea when they will until they get a better feel on the present pandemic and when it starts to let up. So I think the seniors are doing everything necessary to stay safe and healthy, but they are not having any meetings at this time.
Great. Okay. Okay, health, there was no health insurance meeting, contract negotiations, and as far as IT, cable TV, I passed out a updated quote from StoreTech regarding the replacement of a lot of the computer hardware throughout town, as well as it's a couple pieces of, a couple components, migration of those computers to the servers. They're working on completing the upgrades for our servers, both here and in the police department, and then installation of Microsoft 365 and the ongoing subscription. So that first page is the subscription, and the second page and third page are the new upgrades for the computers costs. So there's no resolution for that. Formally, in terms of doing that, it's all captured in the financial piece down at the bottom. So we'll get to. And then Charter had a note that came out regarding Spectrum will launch AccuWeather HD on channel 198 around January 5th time period. And that's on the service pack expanded basic and standard high definition tier. And we'll post this on the website. You have two? Oh. I didn't see it. And there's also another one that on or around December 15th, Standard definition channel for Semelatis TV on the Latino View, channel 922 will simultaneously launch a high definition sister channel in their lineup. And on the 31st, Spectrum will be launching NFL Network on channel 74 and 310. So, I didn't have those, so thank you. Okay, we'll go into the resolutions. Resolution to accept and correct the minutes of the regular town board meeting November 12th and special town board meetings on November 19th, November 23rd, December 4th, and police commission meeting on December 7th.
I'll move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution authorizing training and prepayment vouchers for registration, hotels, meals, travel. This is for Colt. The only one we have requesting is right now is Colt. Who's going to go for Colt Russell for the Grade D Water Operator Certification course in Morrisville, and that's in February 17th and 18th. Only lodging for the night before for those 2 days.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And I'll just mention that I believe Colt's the first person in the maintenance department going for the Grade D certification. So that's part of our restructuring and trying to provide more certification throughout all levels of the water system. So that's good. Resolution to approve the contract with Chilson Volunteer Fire Company.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to award the fall 2020 surplus items as listed. Would you like me to read these?
No, you'll be in the minutes, correct?
Yeah, anyway. You'll notice, for those of you who are looking online, they're listed with the prices associated with the bids and then for the awardee. Did we do a first and second?
No.
Can I go first and second?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to reappoint Don Meserve to the planning board.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to reappoint Brenda Wells to the Board of Assessment Review.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to reappoint Scott Herberg, Pat Ida, Peter Reel, Nancy Archer, and Lance Clark to the Ticonderoga Revitalization Alliance Board of Directors for a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2021.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we questioned why we had to do that in the past.
They're
Part of the contract, part of the bylaws.
yes, they are they're a town entity.
In like a committee of the town.
They were created in the, they
Or an
were,
extension of this,
yeah, extension. Sorry, I muted just so Tom could speak and it didn't cut out.
Sorry.
Thank you, Tom. We resolved that, right?
I don't know, did you do it all for, no, remember?
Did you have a first and second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, resolution authorizing the creation of the following accounts. So these are the new accounts and the respective budgets, respective funds for those IT allotments for the new computers and the associated services. So there's a 200 level account for equipment and a 400 level account for ongoing contractual services.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. The next resolution is authorizing the following budget adjustments. So those same accounts we just created, their allotments for the number of pieces of equipment roughly, and the corresponding amounts for those different funds. And given that this wasn't something we budgeted for this year, it's just going to come out of fund balance.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moving forward, once we do get this established, we'll set up a reserve account for IT, just so we haven't had that in the past, and this has been kind of an onslaught of a lot of IT-related upgrades and so forth that we've needed. So we'll figure out what that's going to be, and we'll make the appropriate appropriations in future years. And then a resolution authorizing the following interfund loans. These are for our 2 ongoing projects. The current one on the Portage, the clean water main project, and the water meter project. That's the next one for the, that we'll be working on, for the water meters, the bypass line, the tank, improvements to mountain pines and so forth. All in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to pay the abstract.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to accept the supervisor's report as submitted. And it's missing, the accounts unfortunately weren't able to be reconciled because of the timing, so it's missing some of the additional information that normally would be provided. We'll try to get that updated for the December meeting.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Then we need next two resolutions, we need to schedule our end of the year meeting and our organizational meeting. So I think we were talking the week of the 28th. You're going to have the vouchers due in on Monday afternoon. So probably any day, Tuesday or Wednesday would be best, preferred.
In the afternoon.
Afternoon? Yeah,
If you do it Tuesday, it needs to be afternoon, because I gotta close that abstract.
right, and process everything.
Yeah. Or you can do it Wednesday, the day after.
Is Wednesday, I don't know what your,
Wednesday, what day?
the 30th.
30th.
It's either Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday the 30th.
Either one is fine with me.
What date? 30th?
The 29th or the 30th.
29th would be better
Okay,
for me.
okay.
Then it needs to be later in the afternoon.
So if we did it, like, what, 2:30 or 2 o'clock?
Make it work.
Close it, that should give her enough time to.
Well, I hope there's only gonna be a few stragglers, because I'll come in this weekend. I'll come in every weekend.
Yeah, well, it's not so much that, it's the adjustments that need to be put in for the final one. Yeah,
I want to have it done early to get the Chatty, so she can do whatever she needs to do.
right, okay. So how about the 29th at
2:30.
2:30?
Okay.
Do we need to
Or
vote on that?
Mhm.
Yeah, you want to move it?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And a resolution to schedule a 2021 organizational meeting. So that one, can we do the 4th? That's the first day after the break.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday, like afternoon sometime. It usually doesn't take but 15 minutes, half hour. So it's
4th? Did you say 4th?
yeah, the 4th.
9?
No. Afternoon. The county probably has theirs in the morning,
Yeah.
so I won't be able to. have
No, I
theirs.
mean, I said, just said time. You said afternoon.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry. 3 o'clock, is that,
Works for me.
Mark, how does that?
Yeah, that's fine.
3.
3, Joyce, is that good? So organizational meeting for January 4th at 3 p.m.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Tony, did you have anything else?
No, I think you covered all my stuff.
Okay. Matt, are you still on?
He is.
Did you have anything else to add? Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Any of you guys have anything else?
No.
Okay, at this time, I will allow one more public comment session, period. So if anyone has anything they would like to add at this time, they may do so. Just comments.
No, I'd like to read the letter.
You're more than welcome to, Mark.
Thank you. This is the letter that I gave to the town clerk and asked to be read aloud and entered into the record. I've chosen this written correspondence entered into the record to express my disappointment with the Ticonderoga Town Board of Trustees subsequently degrade the safety decisions of Ticonderoga. Summary, elected town officials making law enforcement decisions by circumventing or ignoring the police chief or by not properly seeking the advice and counsel of persons with extensive law enforcement experience and background is dangerous and constitutes a disservice to the residents of Ticonderoga. Strongly urge the board to reconsider the decision, reinstate the investigative position, fill the position, and allow department heads to execute their missions with limited interference while ensuring all town staff, all levels, are accountable for their actions. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much for your opinion. Does anyone else have anything from public comment?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a bit of an echo though.
Can you hear me now?
We can. You have a,
Yeah, I'm muted, that's right.
Deanna, you might want to turn your speaker volume off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there's still an echo. Can you turn your speaker volume off?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but there's an echo. Is that you?
Yeah, I don't know. Can I close my question?
Go ahead. What's that?
She's asking.
Yeah, she's asking a question. I know, I'm trying to, yeah, go ahead, Deanna. Type your question. Type your question. No, you're still echoing. Go ahead and type your question, Deanna.
Okay. Thanks.
I figure out why that would be. None of ours are on, right?
Mine's on.
Her end.
It's on her end.
Yeah, she's got something in the background, right?
Both the microphone and the speaker, so it's backbeating on your own computer, I think.
Right. So does the town have a code of ethics signed by the board members and who oversees? We do have a code of ethics. She's asking if does the town have a code of ethics signed by the board members who oversees, and who oversees that they are adhering to it?
You have a town personnel policy that has your code of ethics, so.
I think there's
So you also take an oath?
Is that for any town employee?
Yeah, well,
Take
there's,
an oath to uphold your.
Yeah.
Well, and this is
yeah,
public comment, not necessarily,
public
Question
response.
and answer.
but I would just answer that question.
Just what?
I would just answer and say, yeah, and we adhere to it, once we take the oath.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Deanna. The town does have a code of ethics, and it's also, there's a code of ethics part of our personnel policy, and the town, each town board member, every elected official takes an oath of office, providing service in that particular office. So, any other questions, typed or otherwise? If not, then we will adjourn. Thank you very much for our first go-around of virtual meetings. Hopefully we'll fix some of the kinks for next time.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
No. Thank you.
You didn't answer my second part.
I saw that you had, yeah, I mean, the town takes an oath for upholding the laws associated with the town, so
Yeah, it's just a comment.
yeah. You can reach out to me at the end and we can have a further conversation, given the technical difficulties with this virtual system. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and adjourn for this meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.